Welcome to the SIP, the Solstice Innovations podcast. In each episode, we chat with industry experts and innovators in insurance and insurtech. Join us for insights on trends, technologies, and the stories driving our industry forward. Let's sip on knowledge together at the SIP. Hi, this is John Umstead with Solstice Innovations. In this episode of the SIP, we sit down with President and CEO of Vyrd Insurance Company, David Howard. All right, David. So welcome to the SIP. Appreciate you taking a little time to be here with us. Why don't we start off by having you just tell us a little bit about yourself and about your company and what led you to it?
Sure. Well, I started Vyrd about 3 years ago. Prior to that, I've had a long history in the insurance industry, dating back to about 38 years ago when I left the Army. I was an officer in the Army, and I got out and went to work for bankers, actually 38 years ago. And, through that history, I've started 2 or 3 companies and been involved in both the commercial side of insurance and the personal line side, and a big emphasis on flood insurance and just multiple areas of insurance since those 38 years.
All right. Well, appreciate your service. I have a son that's an officer in the Army. He's a major, and he just came home this weekend from a 3-year stint in Hawaii. So,
wow, nice. Never got to Hawaii.
Yeah, he every place has its pros and cons. He liked it, but he was away from home, and so he's glad to get back. So he lives in Virginia, so he's back.
So that's about the major. He's probably been in about 7 years now.
Yeah, 7 or 8 years, I guess. Yeah.
Yep.
So he was promoted within the last year. He was promoted.
Good. Well, congratulations. Yes.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, so let's get back to you and Vyrd. So Vyrd's a relatively new company. So I would imagine that means you have to be focused on innovation. And, if so, what kind of strategies have you employed, either technically or product-wise or both, to drive innovation within the company?
Good question. I think, with the homeowners product, it's such a commodity. It's pretty vanilla for most folks. You offer a standard homeowners policy and everyone and their brother has it. So what we've done is, from an innovation standpoint, we've gone heavily into the embedded side of insurance with our water sensor program. And our water sensor program, sets us apart because we've basically built an API directly from the water sensor to us, versus most water sensor programs are quite passive, where the alert goes to an insured's phone and then they have to do something about it. But we've built this API that goes from that sensor directly to our claims department and also goes to the insured's phone. But with our API, we can sense or track water flow longer than a certain period of time. And then we basically create a automated process to alert the insured, to tell them that, hey, one of their sensors, usually it's 5 sensors in a package, one of their sensors is showing water flow for more than 15 minutes. Do they want emergency services mitigation? And we'll basically coordinate that with them if they're home. Now, this isn't a shutoff valve, it's a sensor. But if they're home, or they get the alert, or they get a contact where they have someone that, can, be available to their house, then we can, basically mitigate that water problem. But that is kind of the innovation that we've done to set ourselves apart in Florida. We also have a number of, technology plays where we have partners that either do, outsourcing with us, customer self-service with us. We have incorporated a lot of AI into our processes. We have an AI chatbot that basically has taken in our entire policy. So if an agent calls or insured calls, the chatbot can answer any questions that are coverage specific. And then we can forward those to our various departments for human interaction as well. But we're pretty high end on the innovation side because, we can write a lot of premium without a number of employees. I'm on track to write anywhere from 130 to 150 million in premium this year with basically 14 employees.
Wow. That's pretty amazing. And, any kind of startup, but especially insurance being one of the more difficult ones, there are challenges and just getting off the ground and getting some foundational client base to get some revenue coming in is challenging enough. But on the flip side, I imagine it does put you in a little bit of a better place because, insurance companies that have been around for a number of years or decades, it's harder to pivot away from some of those legacy systems and legacy technology to
Mm-hmm.
take advantage of some of the things that are available today and tomorrow. And
Yeah, yeah. I think not only is the legacy side, but it's also the institutionalized
yeah,
methods of doing things. Right. If you think about the heavy staffing models on the past for insurance carriers and MGAs, the thing that our advantage in this scenario was that I've done it before, right? So I did it with the previous company that I started back in '05 called Edison Insurance Company, which eventually we sold that to Florida Peninsula. But the same model was in place where we had partners that we used their FTEs as our employees, but we basically paid them, whether it's be per transactional basis or as a percentage of premium. And in essence, they were our staff. They augmented our staff, but we had a variable cost with them based upon the volume that we did and how we grew. And we knew we could do it again. So I think the luxury or the advantage that I had starting Vyrd is that I knew that this method or this process or this foundation would work. And with the additional kind of advances in technology, I knew we could do it even better and more inexpensively.
yeah. So going back to that water flow sensor technology, is that something? Are there similar technologies that can be applied to other perils, and are you looking at any of those types of technologies that they?
Yeah, there's one that's not our solution. There's a product called Ting that's been put out by Hartford Steam Boiler, and the Ting product basically every time you plug in anything into the electrical circuitry of a house, it basically monitors the voltage of any appliance, and what it does basically is that if there is any type of fire created by electrical circuits or electrical, voltage, it can basically pinpoint the source of the fire and actually subrogate to the manufacturer of that product. And that's part of their, secret sauce of that product, and it's part of the process with that product is that they can monitor every single thing you plug into your house, and it shows basically the meterage, what's taking up all of the juice of the house and potentially what causes fire. So that's a product that's what we call embedded as well. Um, most of the losses in Florida are either water or roof. I'm still looking and trying to figure out what else we could do from the roof side. Whether you put little sensors everywhere on the roof, and it shows the weight of a hailstone hitting the roof, or things like that. I think that there'll be new technology coming out. We use a number of aerial technologies and AI technologies for roof condition, the view, tree overhang, things like that, but nothing that basically could alert from a touch standpoint, right?
Yeah.
Or a water standpoint. So I think that there'll be technologies coming forward in the future because those are the two big areas that really make up most of the losses in Florida. And that's roof damage and water damage.
Yeah. Yeah, I just had an incident just this weekend. My coffee maker was a little bit old school, and it fritzed out, and I could smell that electrical burning. It didn't cause any kind of circuit breakers to trip or anything like that, but something clearly was going on because I could smell it,
Right.
and I just thought if I wasn't in the house, I wouldn't have known, and probably nothing would have happened. But who wants to bank on probably, right? And
Right,
so,
right. I mean, one of the biggest areas for fires now is lithium batteries in the garage, right? So when you have electric cars and other types of material that supports the house that uses lithium batteries, apparatuses, appliances, and so on, that's a problem because if your garage is detached or you don't smell what's going on in the garage. But I do think that Ting product is good for the garage as well, because it would alert you to things that were about to explode or whatever. But the lithium battery issue is really interesting because you're probably familiar with some of the history of the recent flooding in Florida with Hurricane Helene and Milton, and Helene had a number of Teslas that basically caught on fire because of the salt water attacking an electric engine, basically.
It's going to be really interesting to see where all of this leads, because some of this stuff you almost think it ought to be here today, right? With smart appliances and smart houses, smart homes. And
I do think there's more that can come of the embedded side, and we're looking at that. It's just there's so much technology and so much development going on with AI. I get this actually daily AI newsletter that just shows every new product every day coming out, that just a new AI product that does a new thing for you, right? And it's just amazing the how quickly it's moving.
Innovation clearly has made a difference in your staffing models. Um, do you have any case studies that you can share, or examples of how some of the innovations that you've been able to implement has enabled you to build that customer base, and where it's taking you in the market?
Yeah, we do. A perfect example is, so if you think about attritional loss on the water side, our best case, our best use case is for the water sensors on that. So basically, we have a multi-peril policy. So if you think about our homeowners premium on HO3 policy, it basically is distributed multiple verticals. We cover fire, wind, hail, sinkhole, those are the AOPs, and then you have your hurricane, right? And the water's a separate kind of vertical. So with our program, if we have active sensors in the house, we give the sensors away free, by the way, too. We give 5 sensors to every insured, and we give them a substantial discount on that water premium. Our loss ratio for water for homes that have activated sensors is 1%.
Wow.
1%. Our attritional loss ratio for homes without water sensors on the water portion is 15%. So if you take those 14 percentage points in the last 2.5 years, we've calculated that our claims avoidance or our loss avoidance is $5.2 million in the last 2.5 years.
Wow. That's amazing.
So the sensors work. One of the things, you have to have the right type of insured. The insured has to basically have some pride of ownership. They have to be, slightly technology savvy. All you have to do is download the software and then put the 5 sensor pucks in the 5 most prevalent places for water loss, where we give them those areas. And there's still some hesitancy to just do that, even though on the water side, on the water premium, we're given a 40% discount. So that's basically anywhere from $350 to $600 savings on the premium, just if they activate the sensors.
That case study in and of itself, and the metrics that you've captured, that's marketing material, right? That's
absolutely. And the thing is that we're also paying our agents more commission based upon their percentage of their portfolio that has active sensors. So we're putting our money where our mouth is. We give the sensors away for free, which are about $200 a value. We give a 40% discount on the water premium, and we pay our agents about 3% more commission based upon their portfolio and what the percentage of their portfolio participates in this program. So we're doing everything we can to really get the usage up.
Everyone wins.
Yep.
That's awesome. So, David, you've been around the insurance industry for a while, been pretty successful at it, started at least a couple of companies. what advice might you give to a younger professional that is either looking to get into insurance in some capacity or has already?
Well, the biggest thing I thought about when I was starting Vyrd, I tell everybody this story is that I want to get a table. I want to get, a conference table, and I want everyone around that table to at least have some experience. So basically, you don't always have to go research an issue from scratch, right? And the goal was that if we didn't have an answer because we hadn't seen it before, we knew who to call or we knew who to talk to as a network to figure out an answer. And I think that's the advice I'd give anybody is that when you start something, throw out many of your assumptions and really take a much broader view as to the product and the contingencies that you might fall into, the whole Murphy's Law, right? Because I think that, no one knows everything. And, use all the brains you have and all the brains you can borrow.
Yeah.
And I think that's the best way to look at it. No man's an island. It does take a team effort. My whole mantra for my company, for Vyrd, is team first. Everything surrounds the team. Not no one person can get it all done. So I think that the best advice is to surround yourself with people that have at least some experience, have done it before, but know who to contact to at least, research issues, research processes. Because when you're starting from scratch and you're maybe a neophyte, if you will, you just need to surround yourself with people that maybe have some gray hair.
Yeah, well, there are enough of us around, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and the networks are everything as well. It's probably like this in a number of industries, but insurance is really a very small world, and
Mhm.
especially when you specialize in any particular line, everyone knows each other. Everyone's worked for and against each other at some point in time. So building those professional networks and relationships is I think really critical.
Yeah. And in the area that, you're one of the areas that you're focusing on with Solstice and so on from the past is flood. And obviously I met Travis over 20 years ago when I was running, Basic, which is now Right Flood, the biggest flood company out there. Our company, IMSG, part of Bankers, basically evolved into what's now Right Flood. And that's when I met Travis. And that flood side of the business, talk about tightly knit.
Yeah,
That's even smaller than the homeowners side of the business. It's like there's only X amount of carriers and everyone knows everybody in that business.
yeah,
So the other piece of advice I would have there, as you know this, John, is that, you know, just never burn bridges. You just never know when you're going to work with someone again, and make sure that you treat everyone the way that you want to be treated. And, be a friend, be an ally. There's enough business to go around for everybody. So I really don't see my homeowners, former CEOs of homeowners or current CEOs of homeowners as competitors.
yeah.
We're all writing as much as we can based upon our surplus and our capacity and our portfolio. So I don't really see them as competitors. I just see them as, allies.
Yeah, yeah. Play hard on the field, leave it all on the field, and walk off, shake hands, and go have a Gatorade together.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, one last question for you, David, and it's kind of a big one, but it may be a little unfair. But just where do you see the insurance industry going, and
Mhm.
what's your vision for Verd's place in it?
For Verd, I think we're going to stay where our sweet spot is. We might, evolve into writing some other, residential property products like a dwelling fire product, potentially a renter's product, maybe an HO6, which is a condo owner's product. We have some third party relationships with flood insurance. We won't be a writer of that. We'll just be a fee income producer of that through our MGA. I'm not sure we'll go to other states right now. We can get to about 250 to 300 million in premium over the next 2 to 3 years. And that's a pretty good size for Florida. We don't need to get any bigger than that. And then we'll see. We're also involved in some other states trying to do some MGA work in conjunction with our parents. So that's where I see us going.
All right. Great. Well, good stuff. Well, David Howard, President and CEO of Vyrd Insurance Company. Appreciate you taking time to be on the SIP.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it.
All right. Well, have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right. See you. Bye.